Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Have you ever paused to wonder why our relationships often feel so incredibly complex, almost universally so?
Hmm.
Or perhaps why certain individuals or ideas, or even just a particular look, simply instinctively grabs your attention?
Yeah, that
We
feeling.
all navigate this world filled with desires, jealousies, deep emotional bonds, and today, well, we're taking a plunge into a surprising, really ancient origin story for all of it.
That's exactly right. Our mission today is to peel back some of those layers of human behavior, explore the fascinating, sometimes funny, and maybe occasionally uncomfortable biological underpinnings of why we are the way we are.
Right.
We're talking about the deep-seated drivers behind, sex, relationships, even the very fabric of our societal dynamics.
And we're drawing our insights today from Joe Quirk's book, It's Not You, It's Biology.
Yeah.
This work is really seen as a significant update in evolutionary psychology.
It really is.
It tries to show how understanding our ancient past can actually guide our daily lives. And believe me, it's packed with insights, surprising facts, and some truly unexpected revelations about our sexual selves.
Think of this deep dive as maybe your shortcut to understanding those core biological forces behind, say, the confusing desires you feel sometimes or the nagging jealousies that can crop up,
Yeah.
even your deepest emotional connections. We're going to try and connect these ancient influences, these direct products of our primate past, directly to your very present day experiences. So let's start unpacking this.
Where we should probably start, and what the book calls a foundational concept, is the sperm and egg problem. It sounds almost too simple, maybe.
It does, but it's powerful.
But it's presented as the fundamental reason for so many differences we observe between men and women, especially when it comes down to mating behavior. It all boils down to the vastly different biological investment in sperm versus eggs.
Indeed. Let's maybe consider the male contribution first.
Mm.
A man produces, what, anywhere from 100 to 300 million sperm per ejaculation. That's roughly 1,000 per heartbeat.
Wow.
And a significant chunk, maybe half, are even described as, well, messed up, broken tails, deformed linings, that kind of thing.
Mm.
The book really emphasizes that sperm, in a purely biological cost-benefit sense, are kind of worthless. They're cheap, they're plentiful, and men can essentially waste them without incurring a significant biological cost to their own bodies.
So worthless in the sense of sheer quantity and low individual energy investment, not necessarily genetic quality. That's an important
It's
distinction.
exactly a crucial distinction. Now compare that to the egg.
Okay, how significant is the egg's contribution then?
Well, the egg carries virtually everything. It has almost all the necessary resources, the cellular machinery, the initial energy reserves needed to create a new organism. The sperm, on the other hand, contributes, well, little more than genetic material. The bare minimum, really.
Right.
The book uses this really vivid analogy. Imagine a tiny submarine crashing into something the size of San Francisco just to deliver one pizza. That pizza is literally all San Francisco needs to build something the size of Earth, and then the submarine just disintegrates. So in purely genetic and energetic terms, the investment from the female in Homo sapiens is just immense, foundational.
So if the female investment is this colossal, what's the natural implication of this difference for breeding strategy?
Nice.
Not just in animals, but for us.
Well, think about it. For any creature that produces just one egg a month, an egg that, if inseminated, requires a lifetime of labor, massive energy, vulnerability to bring to maturity, the optimal breeding strategy has to be choose wisely.
Right.
This fundamental biological difference leads to what biologists consistently see across most animal species, from bison to birds, apes, even our pets. A pattern of what the book provocatively labels slutty males and picky females.
Provocative indeed.
Males are biologically driven to spread their genetic material as widely as they can, while females are highly selective about who they allow to contribute to their incredibly high investment.
That distinction really does set the stage. So given this backdrop of, well, monkey business, how on earth did humans shift from that to something resembling monogamy? Or at least our forms of pair bonding?
Yeah, it's a big leap.
The book gives that vivid orangutan example. The male fights, shows off, maybe even forces copulation, then he's just gone. Child rearing is entirely the female's job. An orangutan male, it says, is incapable of love or loneliness, just seasonal horniness. What was the bridge for us?
The crucial bridge seems to lie in childhood dependency. The amount of male investment in offspring seems to correlate directly with how long the offspring remain helpless and reliant.
Okay.
The longer the childhood, the more males seem to evolve to become active care providers. And human childhood, as we all know, is exceptionally long and helpless.
Incredibly so.
This makes motherhood an incredibly demanding, energy-intensive task. And it was precisely this immense pressure on females that likely drove the evolution of male care and, well, partnership.
Which brings us to a concept the book frames really compellingly. The meat for sex exchange. Sounds primal, because it is, but it's presented as this powerful, ancient driver.
Absolutely.
We see chimp males offering meat for sex, like a kind of courtly prostitution.
Okay.
And for our female Homo sapiens ancestors, this apparently evolved into demanding meat from lovers.
Yeah.
Or maybe in our modern world, it manifests as expectations of diamond rings, or even buying what the book playfully calls phallic cars, as sort of advertisements of a male's ability to provide. It's an interesting parallel.
Precisely. This whole dynamic, fueled by the intense demands of raising human kids, fundamentally fostered the development of the pair bond. Humans, unlike many of our primate cousins, evolved these intense attachments to partners, which we've then institutionalized as marriage.
Right.
However, and this is absolutely crucial to remember, genes aren't designed to make us happy, not in the emotional sense we think of today.
Okay.
They are designed pretty ruthlessly to make more copies of themselves. So the pair bond is biologically designed to last for as long as it takes our offspring to reach some level of independence.
So not necessarily forever.
Not inherently, no. For relationships to really last until death do us part, they had to develop these additional natural bonds of friendship and affinity, and these also evolved on the Pleistocene savanna.
And speaking of that ancient backdrop, the Pleistocene savanna, it's probably vital we define our ancestral home and who exactly we're talking about. We're discussing hominids here, right?
Yes. Broadly, that refers to all upright walking apes, Neanderthals, Australopithecines, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, and so on.
With Homo sapiens being the only ones left standing.
Exactly. Some biologists even humorously define them as featherless bipeds. But this historical and environmental context is just critical. Our unique brains, our bodies, the very desires, virtues, even our more problematic instincts. They were essentially designed on the African savanna that opened grassland with trees during the Pleistocene era.
Which is a long time.
A very long time. 1.8 million to about 10,000 years ago. It was this period of intense evolutionary pressure where hominids, as the book puts it, ran amok, rapidly evolving into us, shaping the very instincts that still drive so much of our behavior today.
So we've laid the groundwork. Sperm and egg, the drive for pair bonds, our hominid past. But let's dig into this fascinating, sometimes uncomfortable question of human relationships. Are we really built for lifelong monogamy?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
The book dives into rates of promiscuity, and it uses some surprising metrics. We see surveys showing, 60% of husbands, 40% of wives admit cheating in Britain?
Yeah, and the Kinsey study found similar rates in the U.S., 50% of men, 26% of women under 40 admitting to extramarital affairs.
What's really striking is how stable those rates seem to be over a century.
It really is striking. It suggests this isn't just, a recent breakdown of morals, but maybe something more deeply ingrained.
But as the book points out, surveys measure what people say they do.
All right.
Not necessarily actual behavior.
Exactly. Humans are notoriously secretive about infidelity and, let's be honest, often tend to exaggerate conquests.
Right.
There's a great anecdote in the book from a high school survey where 99% of boys claim to be having sex with 1% of girls, clearly a case of wishful thinking and statistical impossibility.
Huh. Okay, so if self-reported surveys aren't totally reliable, how do biologists get insights into ancestral promiscuity? This is where it gets really clever.
Yeah, they look at physical characteristics, things like the male-to-female size ratio for male promiscuity on the savanna.
Okay.
And perhaps most surprisingly for female promiscuity, they look at the male-to-testicle size ratio within a species.
Testicle size.
Really. The size of male testicles relative to body weight is seen as a direct biological indicator of sperm competition. Consider this detail. Men returning from a long trip, for instance, produce up to 300% more sperm for their first copulation.
Wow.
And this isn't just about abstinence. The book explains it's because their sperm kind of don't trust their wives and are worried there will be a united front of foreign sperm.
Sperm paranoia.
basically. Sperm even engage in teamwork, fanning out in these kamikaze blocking maneuvers for comrade sperm, kind of like an American football team's offensive line.
That's incredible detail.
It indicates this deep evolutionary history of male sperm competing directly against rival sperm inside the female reproductive tract.
So the larger the testicles in a species, the more promiscuous the females were in that species' evolutionary past? That's quite a blunt correlation.
That's the direct correlation seen across the animal kingdom, yeah. In all apes, testicle weight as a ratio to male body weight correlates with female extra-pair copulations.
Like chimps.
Exactly. Male chimps have very large testicles because female chimps are highly promiscuous, trying to mate with nearly every male they fancy when in heat. Orangutan males have a slightly larger ratio than gorillas, accounting for the rare instance of a two-timing female.
And for Homo sapiens males, where do we fit on this testicular spectrum?
Well, compared to more strictly monogamous apes, human males have slightly heftier testicles. This suggests that while we are largely a pair-bonding species, our female ancestors were, as the book puts it rather cheekily, having a ball on the Pleistocene homestead, engaging in enough promiscuity to drive this specific evolutionary adaptation in males.
And that leads right into the idea of sneaky extra-pair copulations by Pleistocene females.
Which were probably necessary.
Because of the documented violent jealousy of Homo sapiens males. Psychology studies, like David Buss's work, shows starkly that sexual jealousy caused roughly half of wife killings in the U.S. and various African tribes.
It's a sobering statistic.
And globally, about 20% of male-on-male murders result from rivalry over wives or daughters. It's clearly a powerful destructive force, deeply rooted in our biology.
And what's really fascinating here is how these behaviors reveal two fundamental, often conflicting mating strategies operating simultaneously within humans.
Okay, what are they?
Males historically use either a quantity strategy, trying to inseminate many females, often abandoning the offspring. This is typical for sperm makers, like, say, bull elephant seals, where a few dominant males sire almost all the offspring, leaving 90% of others as virgins.
Right.
Or they use a quality strategy, investing heavily in offspring for their survival and status. Humans, it seems, inherited both, leading to this complex dance.
And women have their own dual strategy too, right? The wife strategy seeking resources and commitment.
Exactly. And then the concubine strategy that desires good genes from what the book calls bad boys. The book posits that every woman carries both a wife and a concubine in her genes because our female ancestors successfully used both approaches over time.
Wow. So this dual inheritance leads to distinct gendered fears that still resonate.
Absolutely. Women fundamentally fear abandonment, while men, perhaps surprisingly, fear being trapped. Women fear men investing labor and resources in other women's babies.
Makes sense.
Whereas men fear investing their labor and resources in other men's babies. Cuckoldry.
Right.
This deep biological conflict creates what the book calls an emotional bifurcation in males. Their emotions are structured to love a primary mate and kids, but also potentially pursue a playboy strategy. This can result in two kinds of children: invested in and abandoned.
And women are less likely to experience that split.
Far less likely, because a baby undeniably comes from her body, and biologically speaking, she has no extra eggs to toss around. The investment is always high.
It's a stark picture, and it touches on an interesting intelligence divide that mate selection I found quite telling. In a survey asking about minimum intelligence for a date, both men and women said average was fine, but for just sex. Women said above average intelligence was required, while men, remarkably, said below average.
It says a lot, doesn't it? It really speaks to the different selective pressures. For women, historically, a mate's intelligence could directly signal his ability to provide, navigate social complexities, offer protection.
Sure.
For men, maybe the primary driver for a brief encounter might have less to do with intellectual prowess and more with, well, availability or physical attraction.
And this dynamic plays out even with high-earning women today.
Consistently. Studies show female millionaires often still demand male billionaires. They're even more demanding about status in men. It's seen across cultures, even within feminist organizations. Figures like Jackie Kennedy, Princess Diana are cited as examples of powerful women marrying men of even greater status. It suggests an enduring biological preference.
So what does truly attract us then, beyond the obvious physical stuff? The book argues the ultimate currency on the Pleistocene savanna wasn't cash, it was attention.
Exactly. The ability to command attention translated into community support, influence, and, crucially, access to mates. Human nests, in this view, were primarily social networks, not material things.
So we compete for rank, not just territory.
Fiercely. Territory and possessions often just become symbols of that underlying rank. High status, which is fundamentally about controlling attention and influence, is inherently sexually attractive.
That explains the rock star phenomenon, perhaps.
Well, the book humorously notes rock stars often elicit a more visceral, ancient reaction than CEOs. Fame, in a primal sense, feels more directly linked to commanding attention than maybe a resume.
And what were some key fitness indicators for men back then?
Physical traits like height, body symmetry, athleticism were important, often combined with social indicators like fame, maybe early forms of wealth or resource control. Think of male pro basketball players today. They often embody many of these.
Right.
But there's a surprising counterpoint, the idea that bullshitters get the babes.
Huh? Tell me more.
The book suggests that for maybe 2.5 million years, women might have chosen to mate with the best spreaders of ideas, the most persuasive communicators. This implies intellectual prowess. The ability to sway the tribe was incredibly attractive, even if the guy was, physically ugly and broke. The mind is a primary sexual display.
That's a fascinating thought. Intelligence and communication as central to attraction. Now let's talk about what the book calls the catfight gene.
Okay.
In species without pair bonds, female sexual jealousy just doesn't exist, right? No point in fighting over a male who isn't investing anything.
Correct. They might fight over food, but not typically over males in that way.
But in pair-bonded species, female sexual jealousy emerges directly because of male investment. The book even jokes that brides will body check for the bouquet as a modern symbolic example of this drive for male resources and commitment.
And this jealousy, while it can seem trivial or destructive now, had profound survival implications ancestrally. The Ache tribe in Paraguay, a modern hunter-gatherer group, shows this starkly. Children with fathers have about a 20% chance of dying before 15. Without a father, that jumps significantly to 45%.
Wow, that's huge.
Father absence triples death by disease or bad diet, doubles the chance of murder or slavery. Love feels like a matter of life or death, the book says, because it once was. Our intense emotions around love, jealousy, partnership are direct inheritances from these high-stakes ancestral struggles. Male provisioning was literally survival.
So our ancestors were tuned into what the book calls the 6 Ps for survival: popularity, power, pair bonds, paternity assurance, paternal investment, and protection of kin through threat of violence.
Absolutely. These factors directly influenced who produced more surviving children. For most of the Pleistocene and among modern hunter-gatherers, prestigious individuals consistently produced more surviving offspring.
And even historical records show this.
Yeah, even 19th century Swedish village records show a clear selection for genes for greed and status grubbing, and a matching attraction to the greedy and popular. It shows how deep our desire for status and its link to reproductive success really is.
This all brings us to a core distinction: natural selection versus sexual selection. Natural selection evolves organisms to solve problems in nature. It's efficient, specialized, maybe less variety.
Right. Think of a cheetah's speed or a deep-sea fish adapting to pressure.
But sexual selection evolves organisms specifically to impress the opposite sex.
Exactly. And this process tends to be extravagant, wasteful, costly, but it also generates immense variety. Crucially, it changes organisms much faster than natural selection because, unlike the environment, a horny animal cares very much whom it selects. Mate choice pressure is intense.
And that's where art, music, elaborate displays come in, like the bowerbird.
Male bowerbird, yeah.
Right.
Building these huge, elaborate Taj Mahals from twigs and berries, hundreds of times his weight, just to coax a female inside for, 3 seconds of sex.
And the females are art critics.
Basically, judging symmetry, color coordination, it's a vivid illustration of how art might have evolved for courtship. Creativity displays genetic fitness.
So human creativity, art, like Picasso, attracting women through his art, are also primary fitness indicators.
The argument is yes. Our brains, with their capacity for creativity and expression, are arguably our most significant sexual display. Our turn-ons have literally shaped our bodies and brains. Which leads to the book's powerful warning: if you have sex with a jerk, you're selecting for jerk genes.
Wow. It really highlights the long-term impact of individual mate choices on our species' evolution. It's not just personal.
It has these subtle, long-term ripples.
It also mentions female ornamentation being rare in nature, except when females compete for males, or in monogamous species where both sexes impress each other, like the crested auklet. But for humans, female adornment is common. Why?
That's a good point, and this observation leads into why women seem to rule the roost, especially regarding parenting. The book uses a funny anecdote about a Boy Scout trip.
Oh, yeah?
Where fathers, supposedly free from female influence, immediately gave up bathing, shaving, any child rearing, while the boys just ran wild. It suggests men behave very differently without women around.
And the author, as a former nanny, saw a stark parenting specialization.
He did. Dads often portrayed as clueless about schedules. I have a kid named Zelda now. While moms were hyper-organized, meticulous, it's pinned to the phone you're holding. It illustrates how women often rule with an iron hand with kids.
And this division is attributed to biology.
Directly. Men are, as the book bluntly states, worse mothers because sperm makers specialize in sex and violence. It's stark, but points to an evolutionary division rooted in reproductive strategies.
Which brings us to polygyny and male dominance and how it relates to physical size.
Exactly. The bigger males are than females in a species, the more polygynous they tend to be. Gibbons are the same size, monogamous. Gorillas, males are double female weight. Harems of 6, elephant seals, males 9 times heavier, harems of 50.
So where do humans fall on that scale of sexual dimorphism, and what does it imply?
Human males are, on average, 8% taller, 15% heavier. Biologists looking at that would conclude it suggests a mostly monogamous but mildly polygynous evolutionary history. That slight size difference reflects the male competition for mates in our past. Polygynous males also typically do more rough-and-tumble play for dominance, and the more males fight, the later they mature, like elephant seals or bowerbirds. And human boys reach puberty about 2 years after girls, fitting that pattern.
And this difference in appearance, sexual dimorphism, is caused by promiscuity.
Often, yes. The promiscuous sex usually gets the extravagant traits, fancy male ducks, gorillas with crests and fangs. The faithful sex looks comparatively drab.
Hell, looking at history.
Almost 90% over 1,000 of 1,154 societies studied allowed men more than one wife. Wealthy men often monopolized wives, leaving lower status men as bachelors. That was the pattern for most of human evolution.
Well, what does that mean genetically?
It means all humans likely inherit genes for ambition and promiscuity from those powerful, reproductively successful male ancestors. And females, conversely, inherit an attraction to those traits. Think figures like Trump, Babe Ruth, Kissinger, often noted womanizers. Compare that to powerful women like Martha Stewart or Thatcher, who did so little manizing there isn't even a word for it.
Quite a contrast.
It reflects how men's bodies specialized in mating, women's in parenting, with stark differences in investment and sexual activity.
And then there's our year-round horniness. Most animals are seasonal, but human females evolved year-round receptivity.
Which selected for year-round horny males, creating this feedback loop that the book says causes most of the problems and delights in the human species.
It sounds energetically costly.
Incredibly costly. Human courtship adornment, art, songs, rituals is completely superfluous in terms of energy conservation compared to other animals. Human sex itself lasts about 100 times longer than most monkeys or apes, baboons 8 seconds, gorilla chimps 15 seconds. And that excludes courting, cuddling. A lot of our brain space is devoted to sensory areas like lips, tongue, genitals, hands, creating what the book calls a pervert's brain, where foreplay arguably became more important evolutionarily than philosophy.
So if it's not just simple procreation, the book suggests the primary function of human sex isn't just to make children, but crucially, to raise them.
Exactly. The human pair bond was so crucial for childhood development that genes for omnisexuality outweighed the pressure for energy preservation. The ultimate point of human sex, then, is to make love, to strengthen that bond.
Which leads to a truly provocative idea.
That all human needs, love, ambition, belonging, art, curiosity, fear of death, longing for transcendence, community, even that ache for God are presented as sub-needs arising from the fundamental desire to procreate.
Wow, that's encompassing.
It posits our deepest drives ultimately serve this ancient genetic imperative. So next time you feel that burning desire for success, community, or even spiritual longing, you might consider how your ancient genes could be orchestrating a symphony aimed at ensuring life continues.
Now let's explore why we complain so much. The book humorously calls this the bitching gene.
Yeah.
It says, everybody is negative because human beings are problem solvers. Our brains are predisposed to focus on what's not working. We thrive by striving, not by being satisfied.
And this bitching gene was, in a way, selected for by millennia of tool-using apes. Once Homo habilis got that opposable thumb, the world became a series of technical problems to solve.
So complaining is problem searching.
In this context, yes. How a tool user searches for problems. Perpetual dissatisfaction helps find them, drives innovation. It's why, despite living in what the book calls ancient paradises with food, shelter, entertainment...
We complain about the toilet not being self-cleaning.
Exactly. That boredom, the book argues, comes from the absence of the challenges our ancestors faced daily. Our brains consume a huge amount of energy, 20–25% of our calories, for this constant problem solving. That's why we obsess more than we scamper. And paradoxically, the whiniest of all hominid species outcompeted others. Homo sapiens solved Neanderthals by seeing them as a problem to overcome. So the profound irony is, we owe all our good stuff to our inability to appreciate it.
Our dissatisfaction drives progress.
In a way, yes. Our tendency to find fault fuels innovation and survival. So if our brains are wired for dissatisfaction, how can we, in our modern abundant lives, maybe hack this ancient wiring for more contentment, or even leverage it consciously for positive change? Something to think about.
Next, we dive into a really fascinating, though controversial theory, the aquatic ape hypothesis.
Oh, yes, the aqua ape.
It tries to fill this huge missing link gap in the fossil record, 1.5 million years between tree-swinging fruit eaters and savanna hunters, with little direct evidence.
The hypothesis suggests our ancestors were maybe pushed to coastal environments during sea level changes, adapted to wading, swimming, diving. And this aquatic environment, proponents argue, selected from many unique human traits that are hard to explain by just savanna evolution.
And the evidence for it is quite compelling, at least circumstantially.
It is. Like our nakedness, most other naked mammals return to water. Our streamlined bodies, perfect for swimming. Hair on our backs curls backward, aiding water flow, unlike gorillas. Hair on top of the head for sunstroke protection, implying heads often above water.
Upright posture from wading.
That's one idea. Wading into deeper waters to keep heads up while foraging. We have subcutaneous fat all over, like aquatic mammals, for buoyancy and insulation, 10 times more fat cells than other land animals our size.
And babies know how to swim.
Instinctively hold breath and float, yeah. And our salty tears of emotion, only marine mammals and humans produce them. Excessive sweating and urination wasteful on a savanna, but fine in water-rich areas.
Voluntary breath control.
Shared with seals and dolphins. A descended larynx, like sea lions, walruses, allowing deep breaths for diving and complex vocalization. Our nose shape protects nostrils from water, unlike gorillas.
The diving reflex, too.
Shared with otters, slows heart rate, directs blood to vital organs when immersed. Explains why water immersion often soothes us. And our big brains, shared with dolphins' whales. Omega-3s from fish are crucial for massive brain tissue. Our teeth resemble sea otters, suited for soft flesh, cracking shells, even slight webbing between finger toes in about 7% of humans.
A long list.
It is. It helps explain why waterfront property is valuable, why swimming is popular. There's even that example of Japanese macaques learning to body surf in one generation. And maybe flood myths, mermaid myths are genetic memories.
So with all this circumstantial evidence, what's the big counter-argument?
The main one is the lack of hard fossil evidence. No specialized swimming fossils found bridging that 1.5 million year gap.
But the proponents have an answer for that.
They argue glaciers and sea level changes would have obliterated that coastal evidence. So it offers tremendous explanatory power but lacks definitive proof. It's a fascinating debated diversion. A compelling story definitely sparks the imagination.
Let's shift gears to our internal workings, the triune brain. The book says our brains are sloppily evolutionary engineered, jury-rigged from 3 parts, explaining why we're so conflicted.
Right. This model posits 3 components. First, the ancient reptilian hypothalamus, deep in the brainstem, in charge of primal functions. Feeding, fighting, fleeing, flocking, fornicating, basically power and sex, our most ancient self.
Then layered on top.
The mammalian limbic system, responsible for more complex emotion, social functions. Hope, anxiety, love, anger, communication, cuddling, governs emotional bonds, social connection. The author playfully calls it handling chick stuff, nurturing, relational behaviors.
And the final layer, the bloated neocortex.
The neocortex, that big folded outer layer, the latest edition, handles higher level stuff.
Yeah.
Philosophizing, strategizing, rationalizing complex language, reasoning, abstract thought.
And the problem.
The core problem, as the book puts it, is these 3 brains have never once agreed on anything. This constant internal debate leads to the human ambivalence and conflict we all feel. It's like Freud's super-egoic or Plato's charioteer with unruly horses, or that Looney Tunes angel and devil on your shoulder.
And advertisers, Hollywood, they get this right. They aim for the hypothalamus power, sex, because it's often the most compelling.
Absolutely. It's why sometimes what we think of as shallow traits, lust, vanity, greed, rage, are actually our deepest human verities, right alongside profound ones like love for kids, loyalty, justice.
Our gut reactions to drama come from this.
Our visceral reactions, near misses, chases, rescues, love torn apart stem from millions of years of ancestral struggles. We are here because our ancestors were good at winning in the chase scenes, good at surviving high-stakes situations.
So anger is easy, empathy is hard.
Anger is ancient, primal, easy to access. Empathy for non-kin is newer, harder to sustain evolutionarily. That's why someone like Spielberg is so good. He masterfully taps into these universal human experiences, these primal emotional circuits.
And it extends to universal communication, too.
The book identifies 8 involuntary reflexes: laugh, weep, gasp, gag, scream, growl, sigh, slow gasp, corresponding to 8 universal facial expressions and primal emotions: happiness, sadness, surprise, revulsion, fear, anger, love, awe.
Universal even in blind deaf children.
Yes. And they form the basis of mass entertainment genres: comedy, tragedy, horror, suspense. This framework suggests even high art, like Faulkner, plays our genome like a xylophone by tapping into these primal drives: incest, serial killing, rape. Our deep engagement with stories and art is rooted in these ancient predispositions.
Now, for something that might surprise many, beyond heterosexuality and the biological diversity in sexuality, the book suggests homosexuality in some forms can be seen as a reproductive strategy.
Yes, and it points out it often runs in families, passed mostly along the maternal line. Researchers hypothesize at least 2 types of potential gay genes in males, each may be a distinct reproductive strategy.
Like the XQ28 gene.
Exactly. Found shared by 82.5% of homosexual brothers studied, inherited from their mothers. Important to say, genes don't strictly cause behavior, but can make certain predispositions more likely.
And if someone says homosexuality is unnatural,
the book strongly urges you to point him to nature. It lists tons of examples: girly boy guinea pigs, butch lesbian penguins, fruity fruit bats, bighorn rams and all-male orgies, gay ostriches with fabulous displays, even a woodpecker species only seen mating homosexually.
wow, it's widespread.
Very. And gay animal parents, too. Male pink flamingos building nests, rearing foster chicks, female grizzlies forming lifelong pair bonds, raising cubs, gay bottlenose dolphins forming lifelong pair bonds, unlike straight ones.
And the lesbian gulls.
Up to 5% of female ring-billed gulls raise chicks with another female, especially when males are scarce. They lure a male for sperm, eject him, then raise chicks in a 2-parent family. A viable strategy suggesting female-female pair bonding can be successful, maybe where males kill each other off frequently.
The book also mentions a heterosexual conspiracy.
Yeah, a tendency among some wildlife biologists to describe gay animal sex as just greeting, appeasement, or dominance, rather than affection or sex. Even mentions the U.S. Marine Mammal Commission deleting passages on homosexuality from reports suggests potential bias in interpretation.
And perhaps most provocatively, it argues non-procreative sex is the norm for humans.
Right. If the only natural sex is procreative sex, it sure is the rarest form of sex. Humans engage mostly in non-procreative sex after menopause, during menstruation, pregnancy, lactation, oral sex, same-sex relations. The most frequent sex for most is with your favorite lover, often for connection, pleasure, not just procreation.
Challenging the idea sex is only for reproduction.
Fundamentally, evolution didn't design things for a singular purpose. Erogenous zones happen to lead to procreation, but creatures aren't obliged to use them only for that. The book asserts, liberatingly, your genitals do not have to serve natural selection if you don't want them to. Highlights freedom beyond direct genetic imperative, the role of pleasure and bonding.
Moving to the architecture of attraction. Tackling why clitorises are hard to find, and why women have them if not strictly needed for reproduction.
It contrasts sharply with the human penis extravagantly visible waving out there, unlike most predators' tiny tucked-away genitals. The book argues the penis was largely shaped by female choice because simply women like them. What females enjoy gets amplified over generations.
So the hidden clitoris judges the lover for the sexy sun strategy or The pair bond strategy.
That's the idea. Mating with best lovers produces sons good at pleasing women, sexy son, or the hidden mysteries entice males into long-term investment, babysitting, provisioning, pair bond. Female reluctance, male teasing, are seen as ways women test the male's ability to please women and his willingness to invest labor, tenderness, and fierce protection.
The clitoris principle.
That clitorizes produce orgasms that can strategically pull plentiful sperm toward rare eggs. It's in the egg's interest to make sperm compete, so clitorizes remain small, hidden, a challenge. Thus, hot sex, peace, and romantic love owe themselves to the clitoris, hidden ovulation, and feminine emotional complexity.
And female orgasms have a strategic role in sperm retention, especially with adultery.
Right. Female Homo sapiens orgasm like males, despite not needing it for reproduction. The function sucks sperm into themselves at the point of their own orgasm, or conversely, blocks sperm.
And the timing is critical.
Incredibly precise. Orgasm 1 minute before ejaculation blocks sperm. Orgasm just before ejaculation sucks sperm. If male orgasms first, female must orgasm within 45 minutes to suck sperm deeper. 45 minutes blocks it again.
Leading to that finding about adulterous orgasms.
The striking, maybe unsettling, finding that women's orgasms with adulterous lovers typically retain 3 times as much sperm as with husbands. Suggests sex with husbands primarily maintains bonds. Sex with secret lovers gets genetic diversity, maybe forges bonds with a possible replacement.
And this all happens unconsciously. The sperm increase, clothing choices, orgasm timing.
That's the claim. Like, biology has marionette strings pulling us, subtly overriding what feel like conscious choices.
Then there's the universal beauty standard, the 0.70 waist-to-hip ratio.
Remarkably universal. While cultural preferences for overall body fat vary, fat preferred in poorly fed cultures signals health. Thin and well-fed ones signals discipline. Men prefer the shape that's hardest to be. The 0.70 ratio, waist 70% of hips, is preferred by men everywhere. All body types, cultures, history, from Venus figurines to Marilyn Monroe.
And why did waists, uniquely human, evolve?
Humans are the only species with a true waist. Women evolved them as a clear signal they can birth big-brained babies, needs wide hips. Men evolved attraction to waists because it makes hips look bigger. Women store fat on butt size to exaggerate hip size.
Book jokes, women evolved slim waists to fake out men.
Huh, yeah, into thinking hips were even bigger. This competition led fertile women to keep fat off bellies, on hips, breasts, creating that hourglass shape.
And male body and brain displays. Height is big.
Watusi women prefer tall men, leading to 8-foot high jumpers. Pygmy women prefer fat asses for health, leading to steatopygia. Our turn-ons literally shape our bodies.
But brains are the primary fitness indicator for both sexes.
Arguably, yes. Human intelligence is equally attractive in both. Cognitive similarity reflects both sexes breeding each other for intelligence. And our verbal dexterity, obscenely hued vocabularies, are display traits that got ancestor sex. We need wit to woo. Our peacock tails are human tails.
And the humongous penis.
Extravagantly visible, unlike most mammals. Age-specific, full size after puberty, courtship-specific, bloats to display size. Varying size also points to sexual selection designed by female choice.
And it's boneless.
An inflatable blood balloon needs serious hydraulics, wastes energy, risks disease. Another way that males risk death for sex, highlighting sexual selection's cost.
Yeah.
And beyond female choice, penis size might also confer status among males, and status led to offspring, so male choice might also have sculpted it.
Finally, the power of love. And how our genes are kicking our asses. Love isn't chosen, it chooses you.
An overwhelming passion, because genes instruct, hey, pair bond, right now, at all costs, this is what we built you for.
Playing out ancient dramas.
Exactly. Cliches like I can't live without you are biologically true incantations of our genes. Genes fill our brains with illusions. She's a genius of maturity, he'll leave his wife for me. Love makes us irrational, passionate, impulsive, stupid.
But romantic love is universal.
Not a modern invention. Exists in some form in all 168 cultures studied. All living things become extravagant, wasteful, risky, beautiful to breed. Humans go mad to trade genes. The stupidity of our overwhelming passions comes from a deeper wisdom than anything the wise can control.
So love is full of conflict and compromise. Our secret schizophrenic sexuality mixing nice and naughty genes leads to internal strife.
Loyal wives hostile to hussies, concubines wanting to be wives, that kind of internal antagonism toward our repressed sides.
And attraction to danger, foreigners.
Paradoxically promotes genetic diversity, despite kin trying to control mating. Miscegenation, mixing foreign genes, is presented as hope for the race. Primate tribes often had war, rape, pillage, trade, intermarriage, mongrel babies. Brutal, but ensures genetic mixing.
And jealousy is possession.
If you are indifferent, you set him free. If you love someone, you try to possess him. Jealous males sired more kids. Jealousy causes vigilance or violence.
And male versus female jealousy differs.
Fundamentally, male jealousy guards wombs, fear of cuckoldry. Female jealousy guards resources, fear of mate diverting resources. Men's physiology spikes imagining sexual infidelity. Women spikes imagining emotional infidelity.
Age affects attraction differently, too.
Women tend to lower standards as they age. Men raise them as they get richer. Men prefer youth fertility. Women prefer older men. Power status.
Yeah.
The average marriage age gap, 4.5 years, is seen as a compromise between male and female interests.
And Galevian mating patterns offer insights.
Presented as exaggerated mirrors. Gay men, first date, sex. Second date names reflects exaggerated male desire for sexual access. Lesbians, first date, coffee. Second date U-Haul reflects exaggerated female desire for commitment. Reveals what men and women really want in fundamental forms. Ultimately, men attracted to nobility and health, women to nobility and wealth, both want intelligence, kindness, opulence.
Finally, transsexuality and brain structure.
Fascinating interplay. Trans individuals report feeling in the wrong bodies. Studies find unique BST nuclei in their brains the same size as females, regardless of hormones or orientation. Suggests a disconnect between physical sex and brain sex.
So male-female isn't a strict binary.
The argument is no. A continuum of 6 billion genders. Many have a mix of male-female body parts, mental gadgets. The author shares cognitive tests showing his female brain. Testosterone baths in utero determine male traits. Insufficient or mistimed surges can lead to varied expressions, tomboys, sensitive new age guys. Diversity is key.
And the startling fact about male lactation.
Men have nipples because they're fundamentally female, just souped up. Men can be induced to lactate POWs after starvation. Some tribe men on breast pumps. Demonstrates latent female capacity. It all points to the same underlying truth. Our deepest desires, societal structures, conflicts are profoundly shaped by evolutionary biology, especially the differing sperm-egg strategies. Our desires are ancient passions, powerful forces orchestrated by genes for survival, often overriding rational minds.
So what does this all mean for you listening? When you feel that intense, irrational pull of love or that surge of jealousy or even just nagging dissatisfaction with a perfectly good toilet, ask yourself, who is truly in charge, you or your ancient genes? Our neurotic neocortex, our reason might argue with our heart, our instincts, but ultimately our greatest joys and pains often serve the ancient amoral imperative of the gene.
And remember, while natural doesn't mean good, disease and murder are natural too. This exquisite tension between competition and cooperation is precisely what makes us uniquely horny and romantic mammals, shaped by love for love. It's a biological symphony playing out in the grand theater of our daily lives.